recording. Yeah, I've initiated the recording. Okay, so basically, today's webinar topic is about DevOps with Ansible and Docker, right? So, in our last webinar, basically we discussed about the Docker, right? So, since all of you are, have some basic idea about Docker now, we're going to, in extension to, just to complement our knowledge. Since we are comfortable with Docker now, we can explore Ansible, right? So basically, this is going to be just an intro kind of session. So it's not going to be a deep dive. Sunil says he can't hear me. How about others?
Yes, Jagan, you are audible to me.
Okay, you're
Yeah,
audible.
we can hear you.
Okay, fine. I think. Okay, fine. So let me launch the Ubuntu. I'll be using Ubuntu for this. So do you see my screen now? Ubuntu?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's not responding or something. It doesn't seem to respond actually. So I'll reboot. I'll use my other VM. This, for some reason, it's not responding now. Anyway, I have the other image. So the image that I used last time. So I'll use the same one. So basically, I'm going to be using Ubuntu 1704, 64-bit OS. Okay, so we have this ready. Okay, cool. I'll create a folder, Ansible webinar. Okay, fine. So as usual, this is going to be a hands-on training. So basically, I think we all are familiar with the basics of Docker already. So the Docker version that I have is basically 1.12.6. However, the Docker version really doesn't matter much. Okay, so the images that I have is, okay, let me minimize this. Okay, yeah, fine. So the images that I have is, these are the images that I have. So basically, for the Ansible purpose, I would like to use this particular image, right? So this is my custom image that I have built for Ansible. So basically, Ansible is an automation language that's, as you all know. So like you have Puppet and Chef. Ansible is a automation language. which is basically the way it is different from the other Chef and Puppet is basically it's not a client server model. So it is an agentless uh, automation tool in the sense when you are using Ansible as an automation language to manage the servers doesn't have to install. You don't have to install any Ansible agent or any special software on the Ansible. However, there are some basic prerequisite that Ansible expects to communicate with the server. So, for instance, on the server that you would like to manage with Ansible, the machine should have SSH server running on it. So you should be able to the Ansible machine that you write you use to write the scripts are normally called as the control machine. So maybe you can use your laptop or your desktop. So when you use your desktop to write the Ansible scripts, normally the Ansible scripts are referred as playbooks, right? So when you write a playbook and execute, so the way Ansible works is basically it's going to do a SSH to the remote machine, and it is going to copy the script from your local machine into the remote machine, and then it's going to execute the script locally on those servers. So that's the way it works. So basically, the basic prerequisite for Ansible to communicate with the remote machines which you're going to manage is basically the remote machine must have SSH server running on it. And the other requirement is basically Python is required because Ansible is implemented in Python. Okay, but that doesn't mean that in order to write playbooks you have to be good in Python, right? If you have basic programming skills, very basic stuffs, like, so if you come from if you're familiar with installation, and if you come from system administration background, you're going to be already familiar, right? So but Ansible being a DevOps tool, it is not just restricted to system administrators or QA. So basically it is good for everyone, right? So basically DevOps is all about converting everything as code, right? So basically if you're writing if you have been providing services as a system administrator, now you're going to write the provide the same services in the form of a script, right? So you're going to automate end to end. So that is the whole idea of DevOps. Here what we will do is basically let me list out the images that I have. Okay, so I have these images, and I'm going to be using this particular image for the CentOS purpose. Okay, so let me write a ping this one. So this is similar to your hello world. So but this particular ping, the Ansible ping conforms various stuffs, and Ansible basically uses a special file called the inventory file. This particular inventory file can be named as inventory, or it can be named as host. Okay, so I'm going to create a host file. Maybe I'll touch. Okay, so I'm going to create a host file. As of now, the host file is empty, right? So let me see the containers that are running. As of now, no containers are running, and I'm going to list the images. Okay, so I'm going to start a container, right? So and the way I have prepared this particular image is basically this already has SSH server, and port 22 is exposed on this particular image, and the port 80 is also exposed for in case you would like to install some kind of web server and things like that on this machine. Basically both ports 80 as well as port 22 are exposed in the image level. Hence I would like to do some port forwarding here on the Docker, right? So however you don't have to really use, or you don't have to stick on to Docker. You can use, in the place of Docker, you can use VMware, right? You can use Amazon any EC2 instance from Amazon also you can use, or from Google platform. So it doesn't matter which machine you are trying to manage, right? So I'm going to use Docker for convenience. So I'm going to start a Docker container using this port forwarding. So basically I would like to uh, forward 2000 port on the host as 22 inside the container, and I would like to do a port mapping. 2500 on the host machine will be mapped as 80. Okay, and then the followed by the name of the image. So I'm going to be using this particular image, which is a CentOS based image. Okay, so the container is started. You can see that now the container is started, and this is the container ID, and these are the details. And you can see that the port forwarding details here. 2000 port on the host machine is forwarded as 22, and 2000 port 2500 on the host is forwarded as port 80. Okay, and this is a random name assigned by Docker. Okay, so this is good enough. So basically, I'm going to start with the inventory file. Like I said, the name of the inventory file can be named as host, or it can be named as inventory. Okay, so before that, you can do one thing. So let's do a Docker inspect -f dot network settings dot IP address to get the IP address of this particular container 39D8. Okay, network settings. Okay, so I'll have to give this particular Docker ID here 39D. Fine. Okay, fine. I think we can also do a grep, and yeah, anyway, we got this IP address. I think there is some typo. Okay, so anyway, we got the IP address. So this particular IP address I would like to use here, and I would like to create a group. Okay, so this is the inventory file. Basically, the inventory file will have all the machine details that you're going to manage with Ansible. Okay, and basically few other connection SSH connection details we have to supply so that Ansible will be able to communicate with the remote machine. Okay, so basically we are going to say Ansible SSH host, local host, and Ansible SSH port is going to be 2000. This is the port that we forwarded port to 22 inside the container, right? So port 2000 is basically the port that is available on the local host, right? So the same acts as a port 22 inside the container. Okay, fine. We're going to use this, and we're going to say Ansible SSH user. So this is the name of the user Ansible will be using to do a SSH, open a SSH connection with the remote machine. So I have created a user called root on the CentOS image, and I'm going to be supplying SSH password, which is also root in my case, and Ansible become user, which is going to be root again, Ansible become password. So basically, what is this become user and become password? Basically, this is the root user. So whenever you try to install some software on the remote machine, normally we'll have to do it as a system admin, right? So as an admin. So we use sudo, right? So when you use sudo, right? So basically, it is going to pick this user, and we are also going to supply the credential here. And finally, Ansible SSH private key file. So basically, the other requirement is basically in order to perform a passwordless login to the remote machine, Ansible makes use of this private key, public key kind of authentication. Okay, so the private key is available on my system on this particular folder. Typically, it gets stored in the user home, right? So basically, I'm going to go to the home directory. In the home directory, I have a .ssh folder, right? And your private key will be id underscore RSA dot. Okay, so without the extension. Okay, id underscore RSA. This is the private key. Okay, so we have given all the essential details, I guess. Okay, I'm going to save this particular file, right? So the inventory file looks like this. So let us try to do a ping now. So I'm going to start with Ansible Ad-hoc command. So basically, any simple command that you would like to issue in the command prompt without writing a playbook. Normally, they are called as actually the Ad-hoc commands. Okay, so we are yet to start with the playbooks. So Ansible followed by -i. -i indicates the name of the inventory file. In our case, this is the inventory file. And as you can see that we have created a group called all. So which means like you may have more than one machines listed under the all group here, right? I'm going to target all the machines here, and I'm going to be using a module called the ping module. Okay, so what this ping module will do, yeah, you can guess that this is a Python, script which will be copied from my local machine into the remote machine, which is this machine, right? So on this machine, it's going to copy this particular Python script, and it's going to execute it on the remote machine, and it's going to Ansible is going to get the summary, right? It's going to say whether this particular command or the ping succeeded or it has not succeeded. Okay, that's what we're going to see now. Okay, so looks like there is some permission issue or something. Okay, there could be several reasons for this. However, what I suspect is basically I have not probably exported the the public key from this machine. Maybe the key that was exported is a wrong key or something. So what I would like to do, I would like to copy Docker CP. Then I would like to copy, before that maybe I will do a Docker PS to get the container ID and details. Okay, so I'm going to say, first let me do a normal copy from the home directory SSH ID underscore or a say.pub. This is the public key, right? This public key has to be exported inside the container so that it will trust your machine, right? So that it will allow you to perform a login less entry, right? So without login, it will allow you to get inside the machine. Okay, so I'm going to do a copy, and I'm going to give a name called authorized underscore keys. Okay, so this particular file is copied here. Now the same key, this particular authorized underscore keys file, I would like to copy from the local machine inside the container. So basically I can give the container ID followed by the path. So the path where this expects is basically root is the user we would like to log in without password, right? So I'm going to give the directory, home directory of the root and the SSH folder. Then under this we are going to copy this file called authorized keys. Okay, hope I have done this. This has happened successfully. There is no error. We are not seeing any error. Then we'll ensure that the key is picked up, right? Looks like, yeah, it is picked up. SSH add list. Okay, yeah, it seems to have picked up this. Let me do a ping now. Okay, now we are able to successfully ping to that machine. So the issue was that basically, like I said, there are some prerequisites to for Ansible to connect to that machine. So one is the remote machine, which is in our case, this is a machine remote machine we are trying to manage, right? Though in this case we are not trying to install or do perform any meaningful operation on this. However, this is like the very first thing that you will verify to check whether the connectivity is working. I'm hearing some background noise actually. If you don't have any question, please mute yourself.
Jagan, one
Yeah.
question. Do we need to this authorized file need to be included in host inventory?
As of now, for the present activity that we are doing, this is not required. So, for instance, these details are not really required, right? Because we are not doing
Okay.
any activity which requires sudo permission. So this is not required. However, this I added for the activities that we are going to do next, right? So
Okay.
and
Okay.
same way, even this is not required. SSH password is not required because anyway we supplied the private key file here. Hence, it should be able to do a passwordless entry. See, for instance, how Ansible will try to do is basically you can try this -p 2000, right? And the name of the, I think the IP address. We take this IP address. The IP address is basically 1702. Okay. So the way Ansible will try to do a SSH is basically SSH minus P, name of the user is root, localhost. Okay, and basically this is going to be port 2000. If you look at this, it did not prompt us for any kind of login. So any machine that you are going to manage through Ansible, right? You should have prepared your image like this. So it has not prompted for any user, and this is possible because of the public key, private key authentication, right? So this was not done properly. That's why it was failing initially. So I manually copied the key, and then it works fine. Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. Fine. Any questions so far? Anyone has any questions? Okay. Good. I assume there is no question so far. Okay. The same we will try to do with a simple playbook, right? So the way you write a playbook is going to be like this. I'll say ping.yaml, right? So the DSL or the domain specific language picked by used by Ansible is YAML, right? YAML is yet another markup language, and it's going to look like this. So usually Ansible file will be having this 3 hyphen to indicate it is an Ansible playbook, right? This is just kind of some best practice, just like you do this kind of stuffs in Python script, right? So basically what you do in Python is you document it like this. So this indicates that this is going to be a Python script. So this is how operating system will identify. Same way, this is a convention used by Ansible to identify this as a playbook. However, this is not mandatory. This is just a, this is just a hint for Ansible to identify this as a playbook. Okay. So basically, a playbook will have couple of mandatory stuffs. Every playbook will have will indicate what are the list of machines that you're going to manage with this instructions that are there in the playbook. Okay. So first, I'm going to write a description about this playbook. This playbook will ping the machines, ping all the machines listed in the inventory. Okay. Now, again, this name is going to appear when you execute this playbook. The descriptions that you write here, it's going to appear in the output. So which will help you kind of give some hint that what is happening, right, as of now. However, this is not mandatory, but this also, serves as a kind of comment, right, some kind of documentation. Okay, so the machines that we are going to target is all. So what this indicates, all is a group basically that comes from the inventory file which we wrote, right? So for instance, this is what we are referring to. So we are going to target all the machines that comes under the all group. Okay, this doesn't represent the inventory file. Inventory file anyway we are going to supply from the command line, right? We are going to supply either from the command line or we are going to supply from the Ansible configuration file. Okay, so as of now what we are indicating, this is a group that comes from the inventory file. That's it. Okay, now we're going to write some task here. And the task, this is a plural form, and you can understand that you may have more than one task under this, right? So basically each task will look like this. So one thing that you need to watch out while typing the playbook is basically the space characters are very important here. So you don't have to use, you're not supposed to be using tab. If you use tab, basically it will give errors, syntax errors at the time of executing this particular playbook. So what you ensure is, if you are using a good editor, like probably if you are using Atom or if you are using Sublime Text or similar editors, so what you could do is basically you could configure your editor such a way that it replaces each tab with some number of fixed space bars, space characters, right? So I'm using space characters everywhere. I'm not using the tab key, right? So that is something you have to keep in mind. And everything that you type here, it has to be indented in the proper way, because they don't, in case of Ansible, Ansible doesn't use some kind of brackets to indicate that this block of instruction comes under this block and so on, right? The way it understands is basically by the by counting the number of space characters, or by indentation only. It's going to assume, or it's going to learn that these things comes under a particular task or a particular block. Okay, so please keep that in mind. So here I'm going to say ping the machine. Okay, now we're going to use a module, just the same module that we used from the command line. We are using the same here within the playbook here. Okay, so this is a very simple playbook, and this ping module doesn't take any kind of argument. I'm going to save this and I'm going to come out of this. So the files that I have is this. In fact, this is not required, right? So we just copied this. So I'm going to remove this. So all you need is these two files. You have the inventory and you have the ping YAML file. So the way you execute a playbook is like this: Ansible playbook, Ansible-playbook -i, that is the name of the inventory. It could be anything literally, right? It could be host, or it could be inventory, or any other name. It is just a plain text file. And then the name of the playbook. This is the name of the playbook. Ping.yaml is the playbook. Okay, let us see what happens. Yeah, right. So basically, what it has done. So I mean, it very first thing it does is basically it executes default a task called setup, right? So if you look at our playbook ping.yaml, we have not written any kind of task called setup. However, every playbook by default, it will execute this setup task. What happens during this setup task is basically the Ansible is going to collect some fact gathering from the remote machine. From this particular machine, it's going to collect some facts gathering. So what are the facts it is going to collect? You can also check the same with the ad-hoc command, right? So basically, we're going to do this -m setup, right? Just like the way we used earlier ping, we can also use the module. This m indicates the module, name of the module. These are basically Python scripts which comes with Ansible, right? So Python modules are implemented in Python, just like the way Ansible is implemented in Python. Even the Python modules are implemented in Python. Okay, so we are going to use the setup. Okay, so these are the facts basically your Ansible is going to collect during the fact gathering task, right? However, this can be suppressed if you don't want this, but this is a default behavior. So this is how basically Ansible will come to know what is the type of operating system, what is the version, right? So all those details it's going to come to know about the machine. Okay, so this helps in many ways, right? Okay, so by default, this is the very first task that happens in every playbook. Okay, yeah. So let us see Ansible playbook -i host, right? We don't have to say the group of machines that we are targeting, because within the playbook itself we have mentioned, right? So unlike the ad-hoc command, in case of ad-hoc command, we have to mention what is the machines group of machines that you're targeting, right? You would like to do ping, right? But in case of Ansible playbook, you don't have to mention this, right? You just have to mention the name of the inventory file, right? -i post. This all is already mentioned inside the playbook. Okay, and we are going to supply the name of the playbook like this. Okay, so this is the very first print statement that appears. So this is the description that we gave about our playbook itself, right? So we wrote that this playbook will ping all the machines listed in the inventory. That appears here. So like I said, this is a kind of documentation that you are doing. Okay, and basically the very first setup task has gathered all the facts. However, it has not listed what are the facts it has gathered. It is going to be useful for future tasks that we are going to perform. Okay, this happens by default. Then it does the ping. However, this ping is slightly interesting because this ping is not similar to the ping that we do normally, right? It is not equivalent to this one. right? It is not equivalent to this. How this is different is, like I said, ping is a module. Okay, so ping is a module, and this module is nothing but a Python file. Okay, so you can enable the verbose like this in Playbook. When you execute a Playbook, you can enable the verbose. So basically, you can have first single level of different levels. I mean, up to 5 levels of verbose is there. You can say if you want little more, you can say minus VV or minus VVV, or you can say like this, right? So if you want the full details, you can actually issue this kind of, you can enable the verbose here. So now basically your Ansible is going to tell you each and everything that it is doing, right? You can find here, it would be literally, it is basically what it is doing. It is doing some kind of, it is trying to connect to the machine, right? It is doing SSH and it is trying to connect to the machine using the root credentials and things like that. Then it would actually copy the file. It would copy the file. Do you see anywhere python dot sorry ping dot py? Okay, let me check.
Using this put command.
Okay, where was that? I missed. Okay, yeah, we can see that. Yeah, you can see that it did a put command and then like basically it has copied, right? So you can see that ping.py is a Python script. Okay, so from where this Python script comes into picture? So where is this coming from? Right, you can see that here. Maybe the very first line. You can see that in my current machine I have installed Ansible. When I installed Ansible, Ansible will install these modules under the Python 2.7 module, right, folder, right? So it has installed these distribution packages. Under that, it has created a Ansible folder. So here, these are the modules that gets installed when you install a Ansible. So you can actually go to this folder if you are interested. CD and go to this. Yeah, you can see that there is ping. Yeah, this is the ping, right? So this is the module we were using, and this is a built-in module, built-in Python module. So Python modules are simple Python scripts. That's it, right? So only that they have some, prerequisites or some, some specific structure you have to follow. So basically, you have to use this Ansible module, which will take command line arguments and so on. However, the Python modules can be written. If you want to write your own Python module, you can also write this in shell script or C or C++. But basically, you have to ensure that it gives the response back as a JSON response. Because when you say Python ping, this particular command, I think, okay, I have to go back to that folder, right? So we are in the wrong folder. So I'll go back to that folder and I'll execute this. When I issue this command, finally it does, Ansible does a recap, right? Finally it does a Ansible as a recap. And when you enable this verbose, also you could see that basically it is going to give this kind of JSON format response, right? This is a JSON format. So any module is supposed to give the response back as a JSON text or JSON string. Okay, this is a kind of you normally get from any kind of Ansible module. Okay, so we did a ping. So first we learned how to write a simple inventory file. Inventory file is the one which is going to have all the machine details, the connection details, with which Ansible can do a SSH to that machine. Right, all the credentials are going to be mentioned here. Okay, now let us do a Docker PS. Maybe what I'll do, I'll try to launch one more instance of this machine. So let me see. Docker. Yeah. So this port 2000 is already taken, right? So I'm going to create. Okay. This is going to be 3000 and this is going to be 3500, right? Because this is already taken by the other container, hence I don't want any kind of clash, so I'm giving 3000. But as far as the container is concerned, any number of containers can use the same port 22, because this 22 is not really 22, it is 3000 in the host level, and this 80 is actually is nothing but 3500 on the host level. So what we need to ensure is these ports are available on the host. That much we have to ensure. Okay. So one more container is created. Now you can see that there are two containers, and if you want you can see inspect, and this particular container ID and grep IP address. Yeah, we got the, I think this is the old one. The new one that we created is this. Yes. Okay, so this happens to be IP address 3. Fine. Let us go to the inventory. So this is, I can just do a copy paste. Okay. So this alone I'll change. Then the rest of the ports we need to change. This is the port 3000. Yeah, since we are using the same image, the other connection details or the credentials are going to be same. Fine. So we'll do a Ansible playbook -i. In fact, if you would like to try the other one before, you can also do that. -string.
Gagan, we have to copy that authorized key file into that machine also.
Yes, exactly. So without that, yeah, it's failing, right? So we need to do the same procedure. You're right. So we need to copy from the SSH ID underscore RSA dot pub, right, as authorized underscore keys. Okay, I have this file. So we're going to do a docker cp authorized, this one, it will be copied inside the other container. I think it is D, this one, and we're going to copy inside this folder .ssh as authorized underscore keys. This is done. We'll make sure that the new key is added, right? So basically the SSH agent should be aware of the new key, so hence I'm forcing it. By default this should happen, but however sometimes it may take a while for the SSH agent to recognize the newly added key. So if you want to ensure that it has already synchronized to the key, you can issue this command. So this is done. Now let us try a ping. Yeah, now we are able to ping these two machines, right? So basically the machine which has an IP2 as well as IP3. In fact, in the inventory file that we have written, this IP is kind of a placeholder, right? So basically the way Ansible works is you could also replace this one with a machine detail like this. In fact, this is not the host name, this is just a name I'm referring, right? I've given I would like to refer this machine as dev1 and dev2, right, or qa1, qa2, or prod1, prod2, and so on, however you would like to call this. So if you perform a ping now it is going to make use of this dev1 and dev2, right? So however the normal best practice is basically you could use the IP address or at least the actual host name, so that when Ansible reports any failure, in case you would like to log into that machine, and it would be more convenient if you use the IP address, right? So that's the idea, right? So normally people will be using the IP address or the actual host name, so that you can do SSH like this also, right? So if you want to directly do an SSH like we do normally, right, SSH root at the actual IP address of the container or the virtual machine. So we are able to do a login, right? However, the way Ansible is going to do an SSH is like this. The port that you used, you forwarded the port 22, right? SSH -p 3000. Name of the user is root, and if you notice, the big difference is I'm not going to directly log into that IP address. I'm logging in via the local host, because technically all these containers are running on the host machine kernel, right? So basically we should be able to connect it via the local host in this fashion. In fact, this is how Ansible is going to connect, which you can see with the verbose details, right? Okay, so done. Any questions so far?
Jagan, do we need to define this dev1, dev2 into etc host file?
Come again, do we have to?
Do we need to define these IPs into etc host file as a dev1 and dev2?
Not really, right? So I have not added, if you look at this etc, right? etc host file, right?
Yes, host S.
Yes, yeah. So here I have not added this, right? I have not added any of these. So basically this particular, the containers that are created, they are kind of a bridged net. They are using a bridged network. So basically by default, and from the IP address of these machines also, you could have guessed that these are private, it's a private network, right? So this particular machines are by default accessible from the local host. So I don't have to do any special this one. From the IP address itself you can see, okay, from the IP
But
address this is
but
a,
how did they take dev1 and dev2 as names?
okay, so dev1 and dev2, it's just it's not really a host name, right? Like I said, it appears like a host name, it is not really a host. Let me do a SSH to that machine, or we could also do a, okay, so I'm doing a, I'm trying to connect to the bash directly with the Docker. If I say host name is what is the host name? Host name is the container ID itself, right? This is a
Container
short form. Yeah,
first
this is the
payload.
host name. So
Yeah.
it's not dev1 and dev2. Okay, so basically it uses, it's just a random string that you can assign, right? It could be anything. I can say server1, I could say server2. Now when I say Ansible -i host all -m ping, now it is going to report it as server1 and server2. So this is the way you would like to refer that machine. Okay.
Okay. It just contacts the port number. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. So what it really requires is the port, like you said, right? So it makes use of this particular port to perform a SSH to that machine, and you can see that it is going to use the local host to perform a SSH to that machine. Okay, this is the way it works. So hence this actually doesn't matter. This is just for our,
Jagan, in
yeah,
case of if we are referring to some remote machine, then
yeah.
in that case, if we want to refer with names like server1, server2, or dev1, dev2, and in that case we have to define it into etc host file so that local host will know what is the IP of this server1 and what is the IP of this server2.
Right. You're right. You're right. So basically, just like the way, see, as long as you are able to do a direct SSH to the machine, Ansible doesn't care how it works. So you should be able to perform a normal OS ping like we do, right? For this, whatever is necessary, you will have to do that. For this to work, whatever you will do, you can actually carry on and perform the same thing as usual. Okay, so nothing is different. Okay, so now let us try to do some simple installations, right? We'll try to do some simple installations. Maybe I'll write a different playbook. I'll create another folder. I'll say install Nginx, right? Nginx is a web server, which you guys might be knowing already. So I'm just going to copy the inventory here. Okay, I have not given that. Okay, I've copied the inventory, the same inventory that we wrote, and I'm going to write a install YAML file, right? So another playbook. So the name can be anything, right? So it doesn't matter. So hyphen hyphen hyphen. Then I'm going to say name. This playbook will demonstrate installation. Okay, installation of Nginx web server. Okay. So since we are going to use CentOS, we are using a CentOS based image, right? So the package manager that we will be using is yum, right? So if suppose you are going to use a Ubuntu based or a Debian based image, probably you will have to be using, we should be using the apt module, right? So in this case, we are going to be using a yum module. Okay. So as usual, we'll say host is going to be, we are going to target all the machines, right? We're going to target all the all group, right? All group is what we are targeting, and a task. Now here I'm going to say this is the name of the task, install, right? Nginx web server. Okay, I'm going to install. So I'm going to say yum and name of the package, that is Nginx, right? Then state equals, you're going to say latest. That's it. Right. So just like we did last time, we did a ping. Now we are using yum module, and we have given the name of the Nginx module and the state. We are expecting the latest version of Nginx to be installed after executing this particular playbook. Okay, and
Jagan, one question.
sure.
Jagan, this host is a kind of name which inventory name, right? Or this is the generic one?
This is not
Ansible
the
language.
inventory. It is not the inventory name. So this tells which all machines you would like to target, which all machines you would like to apply these. You would like to perform this particular task, right? However,
Okay,
this
and
all
in
group.
that invent.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me.
Yes, yes.
Go on, go on.
Yes, I want to tell that this host is a generic one, right? And we can rename that inventory file to anything like in any other name, right?
No, this is not the host name. What I said is, this is not the name of the host. This is a keyword. Just like task,
Yes.
host is a keyword. This actually is not. This is not referring the name of the inventory. Okay, this tells.
Okay, my question.
This tells the
Yes.
name of the or the group of machines that you would like to apply these tasks. Okay.
Okay,
For
so
instance,
this all is not mandatory thing, right?
all
In
is
inventory
mandatory.
file.
All is mandatory. But what I would like to clarify is, let me rename this file. So I think like you are getting confused that because I have named this as in host, you are assuming or you are thinking that okay, I'm also using the same host inside the playbook. No, that is not the case. Okay, I have renamed this particular inventory now. The name of the inventory is inventory itself, correct? Now still it would work, right? So basically I will say Ansible minus I would say inventory this time, all minus m thing. So what this refers that all or the host, that is a keyword, right? So basically ping module. Okay, we are not written that. Okay, so the ping in order to run this, right? Ansible playbook minus I inventory. Okay. Now we're going to issue this one, ping dot YAML. Okay, it is not in this directory, right? It is in this directory. Yes. Okay, so I think I have to rename.
Inventory is not there.
Yeah, I have to rename this one also as inventory. Then it should work. Right? Got it? So basically, if you look at the ping YAML now, it is still referring to as host. So this doesn't represent the inventory file name. This is a keyword. Host is a keyword. So basically, you have to say when you define whenever you write a playbook, you have to tell Ansible that which of the machines I should apply this script. Okay. So I may have
Okay, and
hundreds of
that
machines.
all tag.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, this all tag is also mandatory in inventory file.
If I
Like we
have
wrote
alt tag is not,
initially.
alt tab is not necessary. So basically, I may have groups like this. I may have a group like this. In case if I have a group
Okay,
like
okay,
this,
got it.
right? Maybe I may have a QA as another group. Okay, in that case, maybe I may wanted to target QA. So in that case, what I will do, my playbook will look like this. I'll say dev. If I wanted to apply these things only on the dev machines or dev servers, I'll just say the targeted group. So the group that you are you have defined in the inventory is what comes over here. Correct? So this,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
yeah, thanks. I'll say -I. Maybe people can mute your microphone if you don't have any questions. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Maybe I'll say playbook -I inventory, then ping.yaml. So it still works, right? That's it. So basically this time it has only performed this activity on only one machine. However, we have given many groups in our inventory now. Though we have several groups in the inventory, we are only targeting this on this particular machine. Hence, it has performed this only on this machine, not on the server 2. Correct? So that is how you can target. You can target different host in your playbook actually. Okay, that's the way it works. Okay, so now let us write a install YAML. Okay, now we'll try to. We have written this playbook. We'll try to execute this. Ansible playbook -I inventory, then name of the playbook. Let us see what happens. Ideally, it should fail. It depends on the state of that particular container. Usually, what you have to do is in a CentOS based machine, you will have to install the Apple release package. Correct? You will have to install the Apple release package. It is similar to what you do in Ubuntu machine. So whenever you perform any installation on the Ubuntu machine, what you normally do is you will say apt-get update first, and followed by that only you will perform apt-get install whatever software. Correct? Otherwise, it is possible that in case you don't have the latest repository cached in your system, maybe it would report saying that I don't know about this. I mean, this module is not defined, or like I don't know. Nginx module, or I can't find the Nginx module. Right? This is what happens in a Ubuntu machine. On the similar note, when you're performing installation on the CentOS machine or Red Hat machines, what you will have to do when you use the yum module, you will have to perform this particular Apple release. Correct? So this particular thing we have not done. Hence, what it is reporting? It is reporting that no package matching Nginx found available. So which means like it has failed. It has failed to find this particular module name called Nginx. Okay, so let us go back to the install YAML here. So now before this, we would like to write one more task here. We'll say install Apple release. Okay. So this is going to be Apple -release. Name of the package is Apple release, and we are going to say latest. So once we have performed this, and then followed by when we attempt to install Nginx, it should recognize this, right? So basically, the cache, the repositories will be updated. Okay. So now let us try this same playbook. Now it is trying to install the Apple release. If it succeeds, yeah, it has succeeded already. Then it is trying to move on to the next task. Next task is basically install Nginx web server. So it is trying to do that. Yeah, it would take a while depending on how big is the module, right? The package, your Unix Red Hat Nginx package, and your broadband bandwidth. So probably we could have enabled the -VVV so that we know what is going on behind the scene, right? And the other thing that I would like to explain is basically you can see that certain things are shown in green, certain things are shown in yellow. So what is the meaning? So the color coding, this tells that if suppose everything went well, the operation succeeded, right? So basically it was executing this setup module. So which means it has gathered facts about the server 1, and Ansible also has gathered facts about the server 2. In this process, it has not modified the state of the machine. Server 1 was not modified in any fashion, and same way server 2 also was not modified in any fashion, because when you perform a ping, what it is going to do, right? It's not going to delete a file, or it's not going to install anything, or it's not going to edit, modify anything, right? So it's not going to change anything on the machine. Hence, if any operation happened successfully without modifying anything on the target machine, so it is going to indicate in the green color, which means it is success plus it has not modified anything. Here, yellow also indicates it is successful, plus in that process it has modified the machine. So because installation is going to require, it's going to copy some files, or it's going to create some files in the process of installation, right? So hence server 1 got modified in this process, and same way it tells that server 2 got modified in this process. But however, these two operations were successful. That's what this indicates. Okay, so this seems to take more than the expected time. Yeah, looks like, I mean this particular session it seems to take too much of bandwidth, right? So maybe the net is pretty slow. It's taking too much time. Anyway, so meanwhile I'll launch another terminal, right? So we'll do something while this is going on in the background. So Ansible webinar. Okay. Yeah, so it has already installed on one server, right? It has successfully happened. Last time it failed. The red was indicating that it was a failure, but this time this was successful. Okay, meanwhile we'll check the install YAML file. Yeah, so this is what we did, right? Okay, so now this activity is over, and followed by this activity is happening. Okay, so one more thing that you need to understand about Ansible Playbook is basically this particular task, right, happens parallelly on both the machines. So which means we have two machines, right? So in our case, we have two machines listed in the inventory, correct? When you are targeting all, basically it has two machines listed, server 1 and server 2. So this particular task, Apple release installation, will happen parallelly on server 1 and server 2 until server 1 and server 2 completes this particular task, right? Ansible is going to hold, it's going to wait. Once this task is completed, then it will move on to this particular task, which means the task operations gets executed in a sequential fashion. However, each task will get executed parallelly on all the machines, depending on how many machines you are targeting, right? So let me reiterate. So what I said, this is task 1. This task 1 will happen parallelly on both server 1 as well as server 2, because we are targeting all group, right? This is the all group we are targeting. Okay, so it has got two machines, hence this particular task will be happening parallelly on both the machines, server 1 as well as server 2. However, it is possible that server 2 may complete first, server 1 may complete first, or both may complete at the same time. Anything may happen. Until this happens, or until the timeout happens, right? So Ansible is going to wait for the response from these two machines, correct? Once this activity is completed, then it is going to move on to this next task in a sequential fashion, right? Task executions always happens in a sequential fashion. However, once it has moved from task 1 to task 2, what is going to happen? This task again will be executed on both the machines parallelly. Got it? So that's what has happened here. Let us see. This indicates the fact gathering was successful, right? Yes, the fact gathering or the setup module gathered the facts about server 1, server 2, and it is all green, which means like everything successful. There was no failure in this process, and it was trying to install Apple release in this task. So server 1 has installed and it has modified certain files in this process, and server 2 also the Nginx or the Apple release installation went on successfully. Then next it is moving on to this particular task, that is installing a Nginx web server. Last time it reported that it was not aware of the package, that no package naming matching Nginx, because we have not done the Apple release. So now since we did the Apple release followed by this, now it is aware of about the Nginx package. Okay, it is installed on server 1 as well as server 2. Then finally it does the recap, right? It does the recap wherein it tells server 1 OK3. So what is this OK3? Which means it has performed 3 activities on this server 1 and everything went well. There was no problem, right? All the 3 tasks happened properly. What are the 3 tasks we are talking about? This task, it is setup, and this one, and this is the third activity. So 3 activities happened on all the 3 machines, right? 3 tasks, in fact. 3 tasks were executed: setup task, right, and the Apple release installation and the Nginx web server installation. 3 tasks happened on this particular machine. So OK equal to 3. But how many tasks involved changes, right? 2 tasks involves changes. So this involved changes, making some change on the machine, right? And this task also involved some changes. So it has performed 2 changes and there was no error, right? So it was able to reach the machine, right? It was able to reach the machine in the sense like it was able to communicate with that server 1 via SSH and perform the copy and then perform the installation, and it also was able to gather the facts back so that it can give the summary for you, right? There was no failure, 0 failures. Same happens with the server 2. Now the next one, so what I would like to do, I would like to rerun the same playbook again and see how the output varies. Okay, so this time we are supposed to be seeing all green. Everything should be green, no yellow, right? If everything goes well, everything should be green. Yes, right? So this time it's all green. So as usual, it was able to gather the facts, setup task executed successfully, and in that process it has not modified anything on server 1 and server 2. And Apple release, when we attempted to install, so what Ansible has done, Ansible was able to smartly identify that whatever Apple release that you have installed, on the CentOS machine 1, that is server 1 or server 2, is already latest, which means it has not performed the installation again, right? That is why it says green here. It shows green, and the same happens with the server 1 as well. Now this one, and the same is the case with, because Nginx server is already installed on both the servers, hence it shows all green. So this particular property is called as idempotency, right? So basically, no matter how many times you execute this particular playbook on this particular server 1 and server 2, so the end result is always going to be same, correct? So this is one of the reason why you should be using automation language like Ansible as opposed to writing this script in shell script, or in case of Windows PowerShell. So a lot of times people get this question, right? So why I should not do the same thing in shell script, right? I'm very comfortable in Python directly. So why not write this code or this kind of instruction in the Python itself, right? So why you should not be using Python and why you should be instead using Ansible is basically, these automation languages are declarative, first of all. So what do you mean by declarative? When you say declarative, let us open the script, install YAML, right? So when you say declarative, we only said what we want, right? We wanted to install, after this task is executed, we wanted to ensure that the Apple release that you have on this machine is already latest. So it is possible the very first time we attempted this, this EPEL release was not installed on that machine. Hence, it installed, right? This particular task got satisfied. Fine. Second time when we did this, it is going to verify what is already installed, the EPEL release that is available on the CentOS machine server 1, whether it is the latest or not. It identified that that is already latest. Hence, it is not going to perform this. It is going to skip this activity. So, Ansible is actually smart. And what do you mean by declarative? We did not say how to perform this activity. There could be numerous possibilities. There could be numerous state. So, for instance, EPEL release could be installed already on that machine. What if it was old? Then you will have to write, if you were to write the script yourself with Python or Java or C++ or any particular typical programming language or shell script, what you will have to do? It is an imperative programming language. In an imperative programming language, you will have to describe how to perform the task, not just what you want to do, right? In case of Ansible or Chef or Puppet, what you're going to say, you are only going to say what I wanted to do. How to do the job, you don't have to worry about it. So that the respective automation language or the configuration management tool itself will take care. You don't have to worry about it. That is why use of configuration management tools like these are recommended as opposed to be writing the script yourself, right? So that is one thing you need to understand. So no matter how many times you execute this particular script, it is always going to ensure the state of the machine is not going to change unless it is different, right? So we requested that EPEL release should be latest. Yes, it is already latest, but in that process, it has not. As a dumb thing, it has not reinstalled it, right? It was not doing this, but in order to get the same level of effect in a typical programming language, you will have to write a very complex code, right? So when you write automation script, DevOps scripts, right? So basically, it should increase your, it should help improve your productivity. It is not supposed to, if it's suppose the language that you have chosen is going to require you to describe how to perform that task, and then like you'll have to take care of all the complex possibilities of that machine. It is in the long run, it is going to be very difficult to manage the script, right? So that is the motivation behind using scripting or like automation languages like Ansible as opposed to picking up a typical imperative language or picking up a regular scripting language. Okay, any questions so far?
Yes, Jagan.
Yeah.
If I want to install the third-party applications, means now that Nginx is available in a repo, but the application which is not available in a repo, but I have on my PC.
Right.
Then?
So then actually you have other modules. So you have like, see, whatever these things are just modules, right? So you can do wget. There are so many modules available in Ansible, right? So you can use one of these modules to download. You can also download it, or it is possible that you would have already performed the download. You are just going to copy the downloaded package inside it, and then you're going to use maybe D package -i, depends on like what distribution you are using, right? So you could do all that. It's possible, very much possible. Maybe you may have a RPM.
RPM, right?
Yeah.
But I need to carry that package to that target system, right? First, and then I need to install.
Yes, exactly.
Or I can directly attempt that process. Okay.
No, the point is actually, so the point is you can even download on the fly. You have to use a different module for that. See, for instance, Ansible has these things, right? So let me show you that. Ansible has this documentation. So you can say -l. If you say Ansible Ansible doc -l, it is going to list all the modules supported by Ansible in this current version. It has this module called apt. This has to be used in Debian operating systems, right? Lubuntu is a Debian based operating system. You have to use this package manager called apt-get. In that case, you have to use this module called apt, right? So the same way you have modules for pretty much all the cloud platforms, right? AWS.
I get your point. Yes.
Yeah, got it, right?
The second question is that can you just open that installed YAML file?
Yeah.
See, now there are multiple tasks, right? But in a case, if the first task failed, and it the first task supposed to be failed, and second task is okay, it might be run well.
Mm-hmm.
What will be happen in that case?
Okay, so in case the first task failed and the second task, I mean, your question is like, what will happen? Will it execute the second one, or like what will happen? So general behavior.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Right,
in
right,
this
right.
case, we are targeting all. In our case, we have two machines, server 1 and server 2. Assume that
Hmm.
this particular task failed on, I mean, on server 1. This
Hmm.
particular task failed on server 1. However, this
Hmm.
passed on server 2. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when it moves to this particular task, because this task, the
Uh,
previous task failed on server 1, this
right.
task will not happen by default. It will be skipped.
Okay.
Okay, but
Okay.
however, this will perform on the server 2 because server 2,
Server 2.
this
Oh,
operation was successful.
okay.
Correct? That's how it behaves. That is a default behavior. However, if you want this to, I mean, it should not happen this way, what you can do? You can actually use a flag
Hmm.
called ignore errors, right? So basically, you can use something called as ignore uh, errors true, right? If you use this particular flag, so what would happen even if the previous task has failed, right? Even if the
Okay.
previous task has failed, it would still reattempt to perform this particular one, right? So there are like
Excellent.
there are many other concepts like what we are discussing here is maybe like what 10% of what Ansible can do. This is just a preliminary basic intro about Ansible. There are many other advanced concepts like block, wherein you can actually do something like try catch. You do in Java or C++, right? So basically, if something goes wrong, it can go by default to a rescue block, and in the rescue block
Hmm.
you can ignore the errors and you can handle the error and then like resume with the second task onwards. You can do that, but this is
Excellent.
a normal behavior. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, ideally what we are supposed to do, I mean, since the root user is already admin, so it worked. So basically, apart from this, what other thing we'll have to do is basically we'll have to say become is true or yes. So in a playbook, whenever it requires using sudo, whenever it requires performing the activity as a admin, what you will have to do? You will have to mention that become is yes. If you don't do this, it is not going to pick the become password and so on, right? So for instance, let me show that. I'll just do a split. Yeah, inventory. Here, basically, we also have given, apart from giving this Ansible SSH user and Ansible SSH password, right? We also have given Ansible become user. So become user is basically when we say become yes, which means it's going to perform this particular installation activity as a sudo user, admin user, right? Because this root user is already an admin user, this happened without this. But otherwise, if you perform this on a regular image, wherein let's say this user is different, this is not an admin user, this is a regular user, and this is a regular password, and this is a different user, then in that case what is required? This is mandatory. Unless you say become is yes or true, what will happen? It is not, it is going to fail, right? In this particular image, I have created only one user called root, and this root user is already part of a group called wheel. Wheel group is basically a group which has admin privilege. All the administrators in that I mean CentOS box is going to be part of the wheel group, right? Wheel group is a default operating system, I mean group which gets created. So basically, I have created, I have added this root user part of the wheel group. Hence, this guy is already a, this user is already a root user. That's why this worked. But otherwise, typically, if you do this on a a machine with a regular user. Let's say this happens to be a tech tutor user, and this happens to be tech tutor password. Then with the tech tutor user and tech tutor password, it will not be able to perform this installation. In such case, what you will have to do, you will have to ensure that you have this particular become is flag is enabled. If you don't enable this become flag, it will not be able to pick this credential, hence it will give up, right? So when we say become is yes, basically Ansible playbook will go back to this inventory, and it is going to look for this particular become user and become password, right? That's how it picks up this. So that is why I said initially when we wrote the ping playbook, it is not really required that we need to supply this, because it doesn't really require sudo permission to perform a ping. Ping anyone can do. Normal users should be able to do it. It doesn't require any sudo or root permission. However, for installation, you need to be admin, right? You have to have admin privileges. Only then you will be able to do this. So that's what I have added here, right? Has become yes. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So, but otherwise, yeah.
No questions, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Otherwise, basically, Ansible is a very cool, automation language, because the learning curve is very, it's not steep, right? Unlike Puppet or a Chef. If you take a Chef and Puppet, basically they use DSL as Ruby, right? So if you are going to work in if you're going to work in Chef, or if you're going to use Puppet, you'll have to first learn Ruby, right? That is one. Yeah, for maybe from administrator's point of view, maybe you will have to learn yet another language for this, right? So that might be difficult for some. Okay, that is one thing. The other drawbacks of basically your Chef and Puppet as compared to Ansible is, Chef and Puppet is a client server model. They require an agent to be installed on the nodes that you would like to manage, right? So basically you are going to use your laptop or your desktop to write the scripts in case of Puppet or Chef. Apart from that, you will have to install a Chef server or a Puppet server in a separate machine, right? So anytime you write the script, you are going to push the script to the server. Once the script is pushed to the server, what happens? The nodes are going to be connected with all the nodes. Nodes are basically the servers that you would like to manage with the Chef or Puppet. The nodes are going to be connected with the Chef server or the Puppet server. So it is the responsibility of the Puppet agent or the Chef agent to do a poll with the Chef server or the Puppet server, and see if there is any change in there is any update in the script. And if it finds any update in the script, what it is going to do? It's going to copy the script from the server into the local machine, into the node, and it is going to run that particular script on the nodes, and it is going to give back the feedback. So basically this, though these things are supposed to be non-intrusive, but however it is to some extent this is an intrusive process, right? So what I mean by intrusive is basically, see, I'm supposed to be freeing up my servers to do their actual task, right? So apart from the servers doing their own task, now the servers are also unnecessarily installing, running, executing some other process agent, and this agent is going to constantly poll, right? In a periodic fashion, it is going to poll the Chef server or the Puppet server to find if there are any changes. So basically the Puppet and Chef, they follow some kind of model called pull model. So pull model, why it is called pull model? Because it is the responsibility of the nodes, Chef server, Chef node or the Puppet node to pull the changes, the latest changes from the Chef node, Chef server or the Puppet server. In case of Ansible, Ansible is a agentless automation tool. in the sense you don't have to install any kind of agent on the server. So in our case, when we did this Docker PS, right? So we didn't install any Ansible on this machine, did we? No, right? We never installed Ansible on this machine. If you go to that machine, SSH -p maybe 3000 and local root at localhost. Okay, we are in that. So if you say Ansible version, it is going to say, I mean, I don't know anything about Ansible, right? Ansible is not a recognized command within that container. The same happens with this machine also, right? However, only here we have installed Ansible. I'm using Ansible 2.2.1 here. So only Ansible is installed on this machine. So this makes it even more convenient, and setting up Ansible is very easy, right? And the other best part is Ansible is also open source. In fact, even Chef and Puppet is also open source, but however the Chef server is not open source, right? The same happens with Puppet server. So which means you need to license that. So Ansible also has something called Ansible Tower. That Ansible Tower is an enterprise. That is an enterprise solution. So basically, if you are looking for, web interfaces, if you are looking for GUI to perform these kind of activities with ease, right? So instead of using the Ansible core, whatever we did, we experimented so far, the demo that you saw, I'm using just the Ansible core. Ansible core module is free, totally free. It's an open source tool, right? Even for commercial purpose, Ansible core is free completely. But let's say you have to do all this activity in the command line, or you'll have to write the scripts manually with some kind of editors, right? So let's say you are looking for some kind of installation free solution. Means in the organization wide, you're going to set up some Ansible server, and then your system administrators or the developers or the QA, they are going to log into that Ansible Tower machine with their own credentials. So based on their credentials, based on who is logging in, certain activity might be possible, certain activity may not be possible, right? So basically the Active Directory, basically the Windows security mechanism, right? So based on that authentication, you can selectively enable or disable certain capabilities in Ansible Tower, right? So let's say if you are a system administrator, so you will have full access to perform certain things, right? But whereas if let's say I'm coming from developer background, so I'm a developer who is trying to log into that Ansible Tower. Maybe like I don't have to have, I will not have all the access permissions that are available to a system administrator. So basically, the advantage of going for Ansible Tower is basically I don't have to install Ansible on my laptop. I can just fire up my browser, and I can go to the Ansible Tower URL of my organization, and it will once I have done the login, it is going to allow me create inventory or create playbooks, everything, and it can I can run the playbooks right from the browser, right? And it is going to install all that. So basically, Ansible Tower is nothing more than REST API or web services on top of Ansible core. So which is normally used by big product companies or big companies, right? Like, you all might be coming from some company background. So basically, when your organization is going to use Ansible, most likely they are going to use not just the Ansible core, they are also going to be buying license of Ansible Tower, which means you're going to buy Ansible Tower and then like you're going to set up. But however, for experimentation or for learning purpose, you can do all that with Ansible core. There is no big difference between Ansible core and Ansible Tower. The only difference is basically the hi-fi UI, web UI that you have, and the benefits of all the Ansible stuffs are available, and you're going to get some graphical updates, right? So basically statistics or if you want to check the activity that is going on on a particular server, you can see all that in a very graphical manner, so which is going to be interesting, right? That is definitely an advantage. And you're also able to perform all the Ansible activity without you installing on your machine anything on your machine, right? You can connect through tablet, and then and then you can write all the script on the web, right? So on the directly on the tower server. But otherwise, basically Ansible core is completely free, and it is a agentless. It works in an agentless mode, so which is an advantage. And the other requirement that I spoke about, SSH server is the only thing that you're going to explicitly install. But if you take Python is going to come by default in most of the Linux operating system. Python comes by default out of the box, right? So you don't have to explicitly install. However, if you are going to use Docker, because Docker basically strips down the image size based on unnecessary modules, right? So if your if your particular image, if you look at the size of this image, this is, I think, yeah, this is Ubuntu 17.04. It is possible that this particular official Ubuntu image 17.04 may not have Python. If this particular container, this particular image doesn't have Python by default, in case of Docker, you will have to explicitly install Python on top of SSH server, right? Just like you install SSH server, on the same way you will have to install Python. But otherwise, if you're going to use VMware, right? If you're going to use VMware, most likely Python is going to be available on the image itself. So that is an advantage. So because the prerequisites or the dependencies of Ansible is very, very basic, it doesn't require any special softwares to be installed. The other best part is SSH client. The SSH client comes by default with all the Linux or Unix operating systems, so which is another benefit. Even in case of Windows, so you have this putty or putty or any kind of terminal, this one. So you can install those softwares, and then you should be able to connect. So basically, the requirement is very, very straightforward in case of Ansible, unlike the complex setup that you require in Chef or your Puppet. So that is the advantage you have, and the learning curve is also pretty simple. And the other best part is basically YAML is yet another markup language, which is a superset of your JSON. Anyone who is comfortable in JSON or who is not comfortable with JSON also will be able to pick up YAML quite easily, right? If you just spend half an hour, you are already a master in YAML, because the YAML syntax is like very minimal, right? So it's not an exhaustive set of there is no exhaustive set of keywords and things like that. And the only time you need to know Python in case of Ansible is when you're going to write your own custom module. If you're not happy with all the modules supplied by Ansible, right? So you're not able to achieve something that is already available in Ansible, then you will have to write your own module. So only in that case you are supposed to know Python, right? So otherwise, Python knowledge is also not required. So which makes overall Ansible the most preferred configuration management language or tool. Okay. Okay.
Jagan, last question.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, I just want to know. You told us that there is a Python file is generated after this YAML interpretation, right?
Right.
So where can we see this Python file, where it got placed, and what is written on that Python file?
You can see all that if you enable the verbose, right? So if you say this -vvv, you can actually see all those stuffs, even the copied file, the location, everything you can see.
And it got removed after after successful step, or it will be there?
It is removed actually. By default, it gets removed. So you can see that this particular folder got removed, right? So basically, on the container, Docker container, this is the home directory of the root user, right? So under that, it has created a folder called .ansible. Under that, it has created a temp folder, and this is where all the stuffs are copied, right? So this entire folder is recursively deleted once the task is complete.
So we cannot debug it if somebody has a good knowledge on Python and there is some problem with Ansible. So we cannot debug it.
You should be able to debug. You should be able to debug. And plus, if you don't want them to be removed, also there are configurations available. So you'll have to just know how to instruct Ansible, to do certain things or not to do certain things. So for instance, if you don't want this temp directory to be created in this folder, instead you wanted to create some other folder, you can actually mention that in in Playbook. And there is yet another thing, one more thing called Ansible configuration file, right? So in the Ansible configuration file also, you can do a lot of configurations which can tell how Ansible should behave, like where it should create the log files. Maybe if you are dealing with 500 machines, right? Maybe it is not possible, or it may not be excuse me, yeah. So, or it may not be possible to check the log like this, right? So maybe you wanted to have machine specific log, right? You can enable the log, and you can also mount some external volumes. If you can mount the external volumes inside the container, then the mounted volume could be your local host, or it could be some network drive. So which means the log files are going to be there even after the containers are disposed. Still the log files are going to be there. So it is going to be very convenient for you to debug.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see that this is the yum Python, right? So basically the yum Python file, right? So it looks like it is getting copied, right, into that folder. Yeah, you can see all. So basically the SCP, they are using SCP, right? Just like FTP software, right? So basically using this, they are trying to copy the stuffs into the temp directory, and then like once it is all executed and collected the output, basically it is removing that folder by default. Yeah, and this is the JSON response. Okay, so before we wrap up, any further questions? Yeah, like I said, basically Ansible, I'm using a combination Ansible and Docker. But however, you don't have to use Ansible and Docker combination. You can use Ansible and VMware, or Ansible and EC2, whatever, however you want, right? And before I wrap up, basically, I just wanted to show that, those folks who are not aware that I have this DevOps Labs a meetup, right? A meetup group. So in case you are not already a member, you can actually become a member, and so that you will get to know like the webinars and the other details, right? So also I conduct these paid workshops. So in fact, I'm happy to tell you that, share you guys that I'm in the Hyderabad and Bangalore and the other batches, like a couple of cities which I scheduled in July are already full. And in case you would like to enroll or register for the upcoming sessions in August, you can actually check them here, right? So I have already posted or scheduled the August schedule here, and you can see that here as well. Yeah. Apart from that, the other thing that I would like to share is basically next week, right? So next week Sunday, just like this, we'll have a webinar on Docker Swarm, right? So basically, I would like to explain how you could create a cluster of servers, and then like how the load balancing. It's going to be a very basic demo on the Docker Swarm. So, and it's going to be a free webinar just like this, right? So basically, if you'd like to attend the deep dive sessions, you can sign up for these trainings, and you can watch this space for the upcoming meetups. Yeah. So that's all I had for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I don't want to take up all your Sunday time. So you all have a good Sunday. Yeah, a good weekend. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Very helpful.
Thank you.